So I am picking up on item 24 on your page 165, a word or two about speed. So the first word I have for you about speed is that analytical folks like to wait until they are ready to do things. So in my business, the best way to create a seminar is to rent the hotel space and write the check. That's the best way to get a seminar done, because now you have to get a seminar done. A lot of people would actually build the whole thing and do all the marketing and all the sales letters and figure everything out, and then maybe think about going and booking the room. And in many cases, that seminar will never happen. And that goes on in businesses all the time. So, and I validate it with him personally. So my favorite Iacocca story is the rebirth of the American convertible, which was within his first few months after he took over Chrysler. And for those of you that are too young for this is not the most recent Chrysler near bankruptcy and rescue. This is the one before this. And if Iacocca doesn't mean anything to you, Google him or Wikipedia him, as you wish. So this company was hemorrhaging money, on the verge of death. Iacocca rescued it with four things. He did get money from the government, but he got it as a loan, and they repaid it, and they repaid it fairly promptly with a good profit, but he did get money from the feds. He popularized the minivan, which Iacocca described has 8 cup holders on wheels. That's what drove the sale of the minivan, is it actually was the first American car with cup holders at every seat. And people love cup holders. He said it was also important, he said it was very important, the original design, they weren't big enough for a big gulp. And he said, people who buy minivans drink big gulps. Clever. So the convertible story, this thing's hemorrhaging money. He can't fire any of the union guys, so the only people he can fire is white-collar executives. So he's doing all that. But he's down on the factory floor, and they had those X cars. I don't remember the brand names. Dodge had one, Chrysler had one, but they had an X frame was their deal. I think Chrysler's was a LeBaron, if I'm not mistaken. And he's down on the factory floor, and he's walking around, and one of the factory guys says to him, that car would make a really cool convertible. And Iacocca says, yeah, get a blowtorch. And they cut the roof off of one of these things. And he says, let's go drive around town, down by the college, and see if girls look at it. This is the extent of the research. Now think about this. This is a big corporation. And the bigger they are, the dumber they are. The more constipated they are. Big corporations take a long time to poop. I mean, it takes a lot of X-Lax to get anything out of there. Okay? So we cut the roof off with a blowtorch. We get in the car, him, an engineer, the factory guy who made the suggestion, and they go over to Ann Arbor, and they drive around the college campus and the bars and stuff, and they stop at traffic lights, and they pull into parking lots, and they see if girls come over and look at the car. And girls come over and look at the car, and they go back to the factory, and Iacocca says, we're making convertibles. Now, this is remarkable, all right? But this is how success actually gets done. It's starting things before you're ready to do them. So that's the first thing I'm going to say about speed. The second thing I wanted to say about speed, which is on your page 168 to take home, is that a huge difference between poor people and rich people is sense of urgency. So ordinary folks, like the folks who work for you as employees, or most vendors, their sense of urgency on a 1 to 10 is about a 0.5. Okay? It really doesn't matter to them much whether whatever it is happens today, tomorrow, next week, and they don't respond really even to problems in their own lives with a sense of urgency. And you have to watch them when they are doing things for you, because you will, you know, like for years, decades actually, my office, less so today, but money arrives through the fax machine. That's where money comes. Therefore, if the fax machine isn't working, to me, that's a very urgent matter. Like, you know, the room bursting into flames would be an urgent matter for us. To some employees, it's not that urgent. You know, it's like, fax machine's not working. Well, what have we done about it? Well, we checked the machine. It's not the machine, so I've called the phone company about the line. Now, they think they just did something. Say, nobody did anything. We didn't do anything until the thing's working. That's when we've done something, right? So 5 minutes go by. Has anything happened? Well, no, they haven't called back yet. Have you called them again? No. Well, have you driven over there? Have you threatened to kill them? Have you worked your way up the food chain? What exactly are you doing in order to get this? Have we rerouted the calls while it's not working over to your house and taken the fax machine over there and plugged it into your phone line? Because who gives a crap if you get any calls? We care about my money. That's what we care about. So have you done that? Have you? No, 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 no. See, that's the difference between them and us. And it's a huge difference. I got to a city one time. I was on the Success event. And so every time I got to town, one of the first things I saw, I had a whole bunch of stuff I had to check, because you can't trust anybody. Even though we've done this, you know, for 7 years, it's the same way every time. You can't, everybody forgets. So one of the first things is, are my boxes at the convention, at the arena? Because I got to have product. Hard to sell from an empty wagon, okay? Lazy people do it now. I do it. Mark probably did it last night. No product here. We'll ship it to you later. But you sell twice as much stuff if you got it there. And it's hard to create a stampede if people aren't going and getting the shit and all that. So this stuff is shipped in there, but I got to make sure it's in the bowels of the arena, right? So whatever city this was, it is not in the bowels of the arena. At least that's what they claim. So first problem is they could be wrong. It could be in the arena somewhere, right? So put clothes back on, get in cab, go to arena. And I'm at the arena at 10 o'clock at night, opening closets, dragging people around, looking here, looking on pallets, searching everywhere for my stuff. Now it's about 11:30 at night, and it is clear UPS has it. We don't. Okay? So everybody's answer to this is UPS opens at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we'll start working on it tomorrow morning, which is a big cushion, because I don't go on until 5, but this is an unacceptable answer to me. Okay? So their sense of urgency and so we managed to get a UPS supervisor at home. This is not an easy thing to do. I have to scream at a lot of people to make this happen, starting with my people, then Lowe's people, then UPS's people. But I get around midnight a UPS supervisor at his home, and I say, I got to find my boxes, and you got to help me find my boxes. The guy says, are you insane? I said, yes, but I got to find my boxes. and you got to help me find my boxes, you know. I said, in one of them, there's a small child, and I forgot to put the air holes, you know. Guy says, I don't think that's funny. I said, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to be persuasive. At 1:30 in the morning, he and I are at the UPS depot, and we are now finding my boxes. Okay? Now, that's the difference between me and them, right? And that's why they aren't rich and I am, is because nobody else would find the UPS supervisor and beg, cajole, and bribe him and go and be in that. That's the deal. And so people who, regular poor people, see, they have no sense of urgency about fixing any of their problems. Okay? So if they're poor, and if you have somebody in your circle of poor, okay, and you ask them what they're doing about it, they are not in massive or urgent action about it. So like when I was broke, I considered this an urgent matter, how not to be broke like tomorrow, not someday, like tomorrow, you know. But most people, they do not have a sense of urgency about this, and they don't work at it. So, you know, when those guys, when Canfield and Hansen decided to try and make a go of this chicken soup thing, if you listen close, one of the things he did is he kind of made a pest of himself in many cases, and he found 100 different people who had gotten a book to the bestseller list and had sold a crap load of books, and he picked the brains of all 100 people to put pieces together for their strategy. Okay? So how many business people in any business you want to name do you think go to the trouble and do it in a short period of time to find the 100 most successful people there are in their field and go by bus, go by whatever method they need to go by to get in front of that person and pick that person's brain? 1%, maybe? Over the years, I've heard the story from one chiropractor. This kid got out of chiropractic college, and he spent a year on Greyhound, going all over the country and sleeping at the Motel 6 because he didn't have any money and all that, and showing up at the offices of the 100 most successful chiropractors he'd been able to identify and making a pest of himself to pick their brains. Let me just work in the office for a few days for free. Let me just hang out with you. I want to just watch what goes on. I got 20 questions. Will you answer these 20 questions? You mentioned Joe Polish, whoever was just up here. Joe bullied his way onto a flight with me from Phoenix to LA to do a Peter Lowe event, and just glued himself to me. You know, you're the annoying little guy's kind of Velcro-y, but well, he is. You know, if you're not careful, he's stuck himself to you, and you'll like feel the weight, but you know you can't. He's so small you don't really see him. But you see, you weren't paying attention, were you? So Joe has got himself on. I get on this plane, which all I want to do, you understand, is sleep. I want to sleep going, and I definitely want to sleep coming back. That's what I want to do. I'm not looking for social company before, during, or after this event. Well, you ain't sleeping, because he is in the seat next to me, and he has got 500 questions, you know, and he is in the hotel lobby as I step out of the elevator, and he is in the limo with me going over to the arena. He is in the green room. He is at the curtain right before I walk on, and he is on the plane in the seat next to me on the way home, and he ain't out of questions yet. It's the only person it's happened with, ever. I've been at this for 40 years. Okay? Now, where's, well, you know who I'm talking about. I forget your name. Where's Kevin's kid? Where are you? There you are. So, somewhat this aggressive. So, if you've been to Northfield, to the racetrack, there's security. It's not terrific, but it's there. you're not supposed to be in the back. You, the civilians, are supposed to be in the front. It's just a security gate and a guard, and they look for window stickers on your car, and if they don't know you, they'll ask for your license. So you probably can't get through the security gate. The big hole in their security, which shouldn't be there, is when you win, every race there's a winner. There's a winner's circle, and so the horse comes over there with the driver, and there's a minivan that brings at least the groom, sometimes the groom, the owner's wife, over from the back to be in the winner's circle, handle the horse, get back in the van, and go back to the paddock. So this van does this, right? So he pops his butt on the van and just shows up in the paddock. I'm like getting ready for the next race, and here he is with 20 questions, right? And my first question is, what the hell are you doing? How did you get here? You know? But again, it's only happened once. Once. Most people aren't doing this. And so they are not urgently trying to get information in order to improve themselves. We need a sense of urgency that is the exact opposite of theirs. Right? How many pieces of mail did we get out today? X. Why did we only get X? Well, Susie was sick. Well, great, but there's 250 million people in America, so seemingly we could have got somebody in here who could stuff envelopes in Susie's absence, right? Why didn't we do that at 9:01 in the morning when we knew Susie was sick? And then you get, well, I don't know where to find another person, and I didn't know if you wanted another person, and I didn't know. I want it in the mail. In the mail. Well, what difference does it make if the last 500 of them get mailed tomorrow? That's why you're poor and I'm rich, say, is because you don't know the answer to that question, and I do, right? That's the second thing I want to say about speed. So you got to watch yourself, and you got to watch everybody else like a hawk, because they do not, the people around you do not think this way. And even the good ones, see, they don't understand, they don't apply it to everything. So they think they're doing it with important things, but they're not doing it, you know, with everything. So like Carl's pretty good about it, but a week ago, 4 days ago, I guess, our washing machine started to leak. Okay? Now, it only leaks with a full load. This is the first thing she tells me. Okay? It only leaks when you got it on max. If you leave it on medium or small, so far, it's fine. You don't need to be a psychic. If it's leaking with a full load and not leaking with a medium load, it is only a matter of time before it leaks with a medium load. And right now, it's only leaking like a little. This is the second thing she tells me. Well, it's only leaking a little. So again, my crystal ball says small leak, medium-sized leak, big-ass leak. That's my crystal ball, like flood, right? That's where we're headed. I get this. Right? She left yesterday morning to go to the other house. I am here. I might need clean underwear. I'm not sure, right? I say, when this started, you might want to just go get one and get it replaced like today. Like it's 10 o'clock this morning, like noon would be a good time to have a new washer in place, right? Her deal is, I'll take care of it when I get back. Right? So not good, right? Just not good. So we have to have the little coaching conversation. Right? We've only been talking about this for, 35 years. In the office, out of the office, we have this conversation again and again. It applies to washing machines. It doesn't just apply to fax machines. We have to have this little conversation, right? And it's not, you know, she's generally pretty good about it, but people don't apply it to everything, right? But it applies to everything. So that's the second thing I want to say about speed. The last thing, a business thing I would say to you about speed, jumping to your page 169, is that if you want speed to wealth, you may not want to be doing too much invention. Invention can produce wealth, obviously. Right? It can be immensely valuable, but it is slow, painful, costly, and experimental more often than not. So you may want to try and minimize your invention and improve your legal theft in order to get speed. So, you know, one of my pet peeves is with people not being interested in the history of what it is that they do, the field that they're in, and marketing in general. My pet peeve about this is because the less they pursue historical knowledge, the more invention I see them doing. So if you've only looked back at, so like your question about how people get in trouble wherever you went. So if you've only looked back at the list of names you named, you need to look at now the list of names behind them that they emulated, and the list of names behind them that they emulated. And you will have better and better and better answers about how to stay out of trouble. If you're going to sell stuff on the web, so I showed you a few of those split tests yesterday from Brunson. I don't know what the book costs. I have no idea. He may be selling it for $5,000 for all I know. I don't know. Is it free? Oh, great. Okay. So, you know the site? Is it .com Secrets? Great. So this is free. Free. Okay? Guess what a bunch of people are doing today? They're split testing on the web themselves a bunch of stuff that they could at least shortcut the testing if they just had the free book. Now, they'd be even better off if they not only had that book, but they had split tests of Ted Nicholas's old ads that ran in magazines that he rated from 1 star to 5 star based on the result. So the less invention you do, the faster you can move. And you can invent when you have the luxury to do it. But you may never even want to invent. And really, a lot of wealth that appears to be invention is really just improvement and repackaging. It's not like Disney invented the amusement park. He didn't. There were amusement parks. Schultz didn't invent the coffee shop. There have been coffee shops since there's been coffee. Right? And his, like all other coffee shops, has 4 walls. It's got a door on it. It's got tables and chairs. It's got coffee. I mean, there's a lot of things that just get replicated that you don't really have to figure out for yourself in almost every business. So if you want speed to wealth, you want to minimize the invention you are doing. And a lot of people don't, you know, they don't think through how much invention they're doing. So again, if you think about Hanson's story of the 100 authors, so what do most people do when they become an author? They try and figure out for themselves now how the hell to promote the book. Well, it's not like there aren't footprints. There are. Right? So titles. So as a favor, I just got this from a client, and they're helping somebody, and she's doing a new book. And because I'm a wizard at headlines and titles, it'd be ever so nice if I would look at the titles and subtitles that she and her publisher have figured out. You'll appreciate this, Nelson, because you just told me you're in the pain with a new publisher. And maybe I would have some ideas for this. So what they really want me to do is just give them a title, right, and a subtitle. And of course, what they have is genuinely awful. Right? It is irredeemable. It's not like fix a word or put how to on the front of it. I mean, it's awful. Right? So the happy thing is for me to just give them titles, which I did. But I also pointed out that there's a process to this, which I did not engage in because I'm not getting paid, and it'll take a few hours. But it's important because it might make the difference between the book being successful and the book not being successful. You can go get the New York Times bestseller list for every month and every year back to 1950 to current. And you can play Napoleon Hill, and you can look for commonalities in your category. So if you're doing a weight loss book, here's every title of every book on weight loss that got to the New York Times bestseller from 1950 to current, and how many weeks it stayed there. Do you think that might help you write a better title? You don't. So they're sitting, 3 of them, at a table with a blank legal pad and a pen, thinking up titles. It's brain dead dumb to sit there and do that. But, by the way, if you go into most ad agencies in America, that's what you will find, is a bunch of people sitting around with blank pads, now electronic pads, but it don't make any difference, blank pads, coming up with ideas. Why? There's already a crap load of ideas, and a bunch of them have already been tested. So you can get further along, at least, than the blank page. So I would encourage you to reduce the amount of invention that you do. And when you catch yourself inventing, when you catch yourself with a blank page in front of you, stop and ask, why am I doing this? This is stupid. A bunch of smart people, probably smarter than me, have already sat around with blank pages for days and days and days and days and tried to figure this out. And it's interesting that I find less research being done the easier it gets to do the research. So the internet is giving you all kinds of tools to do this with. Okay? That list I just described, the way I got it was finding and buying books. They're compiled in books. Now you can just go to NewYorkTimes.com and it's all there. It's all there. And as you said about Brunson's book, not only is it all there, it's free. Okay? The shelf full of that I got, I think I got $1,000 in. Okay? You can get it free, and then people don't do it. It's astounding to me, you know. So the other thing I asked them is, so you're working on titles. You guys do know how Tim Ferriss got to the 4-Hour Workweek title, right? And they say to me, huh? So you're trying to create a best-selling book, and you don't know the story of the creation of this best-selling book right in your category, dear, but you want to come and ask me for titles. Right? Right? I mean, see, when I went and asked my father for something, he said, go look it up. I don't know where to go look it up. Well, look it up everywhere until you find it. Right? I am not the answer man. Right? Come back to me if you can't find it, like next week. Go. Right? Now, everybody, just give it to me, you know. So, and of course, they don't learn anything by the process, because you don't just need to title the book. You got to write an ad for the book. You got to do news releases. You got to, you know, and all. So, linked to everything we just talked about, so we don't need to spend much time on this one, is money is energized by decisive action. So the blowtorch and the convertible constitutes decisive action. All right? No committee, no research, no math, no engineering, no nothing. Blowtorch, roof, drive, make convertibles. All right? You don't see it much, but when you do see it, you generally see it attracting a crap load of money. That doesn't mean it doesn't make mistakes. Schwarzkopf said, I'd rather have everybody marching in the wrong direction than not marching at all, because it's easier to turn them around than it is to get them started in the first place. And more often than not, he's true. So you have to ask yourself all the time, you know, are we acting? Are we in motion on this? And I tend to impulse start before it dies and is stillborn. Doesn't matter if I'm ready, doesn't matter if it's something I might want to actually have come to fruition 3 years from now. If it occurs to me today, I will probably do something to start it in motion today or tomorrow, or at worst, since I'm locked up with you today, I'll probably do it Monday. But it won't be any later than that I will push something forward. When I sold General Cassette to Bill Guthey, which is how our relationship started, I determined that I wanted to sell the damn thing at like 10 o'clock in the morning. And by 10:30, I figured out the most likely buyer was our head-to-head competitor. Not that we were beating them, but just being in the marketplace with them cost them some money because they had to market against us. And even as screwed up a company as we were pretty good at marketing because I understood that. So he's the logical candidate to buy. Therefore, by 10:45, I have Bill on the phone saying, I think you should buy us. Do you want to talk about this on the phone, or you want me to get on an airplane? Now, most people, you know, would not take the blowtorch and cut the roof off. But that's the sort of thing that you find people doing. Trump was in the green room with us at a Jeff Caller event. If you're looking for people who get themselves in trouble, by the way, the one that was add him to your list to study. So I'm in a green room with Trump, and Trump asked me a great question, which was, what 3 books are you reading now? Which I answered him. And it's such a great question because, A, it suggests he's also reading 3 books at the same time. And B, he's fishing, so better to ask for 3 than 1 because he's looking for one he doesn't know about that he might be interested in. So it's a brilliantly crafted question, and I'm sure I'm not the first person he's ever asked it of. And so I named 3 books. He identified one he didn't know, and he turned to his little assistant and said, have that on my desk tomorrow morning. Now, that's the way you do things, right? I mean, but see, most people would put it on a note and put it in their pocket, and maybe the next time they're at their computer, they might go to Amazon to get it, or they might, I'll pick it up the next time I'm at Barnes & Noble. It's Jim Rohn's old joke about telling bellboys and stuff about Think and Grow Rich, and them all saying, I'll wait till it comes out in paperback. I mean, so, you know, this is a big difference. The VA mess, which is the most shameful thing probably we have in the United States of America, look at the pace of this. Since we all know about it, the pace of this is turtleish, which is all the more shameful. So we have 47 VA hospitals that we have clearly identified are cooking the books, sandbagging records, not seeing people, not treating people, delaying, which is our form of rationing. And so, by the way, if you don't like what you're seeing, you're next. So we really have, you know, the Postal Service healthcare system for our veterans, and now it has surfaced, and everybody knows it, and to his credit, I guess, he did call Cosgrove about a week after this at the Cleveland Clinic and try and get him to come in and be the director, and then he waited for a week to get Cosgrove's answer, in which the answer is no, because Cosgrove is not an idiot. And the guy resigned, and his assistant is temporarily promoted, so, you know, let's get rid of the worst guy and let's take the guy too dumb to even have replaced him by now and put, this is like firing your manager at McDonald's and grabbing somebody off the, you know, off the fry thing and making them the manager. I mean, it's just, and it's slow and ponderous. If you really wanted to do something, you should have done it like in a day. Task force, okay, I want Cosgrove, I want Jack Welch, I want Colin Powell, I want 10 people, and they're going to be in a task force, and we're going to pick one of the 47, and everybody's going to descend on it in an airplane, and they're going to move in, and they're going to fix it, and they're going to train 4 task forces on how to fix these while they're fixing it, and they're going to, and in a day. The correct thing to do is actually get on a plane with them and go there and camp out, instead of doing fundraising dinners and playing golf and holding. So since this thing is broke, there's been 2 big summits at the White House. One on head injuries in teenage athletes, a full-day summit that we had time to do at the White House, and before Father's Day. So this week they're doing one on issues of working dads, an all-day summit. We got people dropping dead who are veterans, and we're screwing around with this. I mean, it's incredible. And it either tells you they don't really want to solve the problem, right, and or they do not understand speed. So I was in this hotel. So how many of you know who Leona Helmsley is? Okay, good. So I'm in a hotel. It's actually, well, no shit, it was this hotel. It's this hotel. This used to be, it's been a number of things. So 20 years ago, this was a Harley hotel, which were the low end of the Helmsleys. Okay? So Helmsley hotels, mostly in New York, were, you know, Trump kind of hotels. And then they had this chain of Harleys, which were competed with Holiday Inns. So it was this hotel. I forgot, you're right. And we're doing a success track meeting. So evening preview kind of, you know, dentists and chiropractors come to the meeting, 30, 35 people, we sell stuff. And it wasn't Foster on the road, it was me. And so I'm here, and I get here, and everything is a disaster. I mean, the meeting room is not, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, nobody's even touched the meeting room. The guy that's supposed to set up the meeting room is sick today. The guy at the front desk is completely unresponsive. I mean, it's bad. I mean, bad. So by about 5, I'm ready to drag the guy across the front counter out there and beat him to a bloody pulp. I instead make him get the New York office on the phone. And I get to Leona's assistant, and I am letting him have it. And she says, wait a minute. Just hold for 30 seconds. Don't go anywhere. And the next person on the phone is Leona Helmsley. And she says, tell me the story you were just telling my assistant. And so I am telling her the story. She says, hand the phone back to the front desk person, go up to your room, get dressed, relax, okay, and come down and do your meeting. So I hand the phone back, and I come down, and I mean, everything's perfect. But what's interesting is I come down the next morning to check out, and I go to check out, and the guy says, oh, you're Mr. Kennedy. I said, yes, I am. He said, well, I'm from New York. He said, and it might interest you to know that every other employee in the hotel today is from New York, because Leona fired everybody last night and flew in the team to run the hotel. Now that's responsive. Okay? That's the way to run things. So, page 173, you have some help with sort of decision-making stuff. 174, 26. Much of this you can get on your own, so I will just sort of give a mention to something. And if you jump to page 175, you'll get to what I actually want to mention. There is an enormous difference between positive expectancy and authentic expectancy. So Mike Vance said he would hope if Dale Carnegie was alive today that Dale would rewrite a portion of his book a little, because part of Dale Carnegie's advice is smile a lot. And Vance said a better piece of advice would be to make sure you have a lot of reasons to smile a lot and then smile a lot. There's the difference. Right? So positive expectancy is frankly not much better than negative expectancy. Right? It's like not reading because you won't and not reading because you can't. There really isn't much difference. If you're not going to read, you might as well have skipped high school and be illiterate. You just wasted 4 years of your life. So people that spend a lot of time and energy trying to work up positive expectancy and have a great attitude about whatever, including money, are largely wasting their time. It's much better to make sure there are reasons to have positive expectancy about money coming to you. Then you can be pretty casual about it and pretty relaxed about it, and money likes that. Okay? If you are just trying to jack yourself up with no good reason. So Harry, the real estate agent, gets up in the morning and does his, affirmations in front of the mirror, but he has no prospects and he has no appointments, and he's just going to go sit at the office and hope somebody shows up. See, he has no reason for positive expectancy. The car salesman who shows up, donut, coffee cup, positive attitude, waiting for people to walk in the door, see, he has no reason for positive expectancy. A, somebody might not walk through the door. You're on ups. You might get the worst prospect of the first half of the day, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The car sales guy who has 8 appointments set and has people coming in to see him who he picked, see, he has reason for positive expectancy. He can be pretty relaxed about money. Money's coming. The restaurant owner who collects everybody's birthday and now has the ability every month to do a birthday campaign, he can be a lot more relaxed about money than the guy who owns a restaurant who doesn't have everybody's birthday. See, he doesn't know how much money is going to come in this month. He just has hope. Our presidential strategy, hope. Hasn't worked out very well. But the guy who has 1,200 people who he has birthdays for, that he's going to send birthday cards and free meal offers to on the first day of the month, he can be pretty relaxed about money this month because he knows at least there's a base amount of it that is going to appear. Right? And as soon as he has a historical reference, like 3 or 4 months of it, he can be even more relaxed about it because he pretty much knows exactly how much money's going to appear. My anxiety at the Peter Lowe events was over after the first month. I could tell you within a range this close. You tell me how many people are on that side of the curtain, and I can tell you within this range how much money we're walking out of here today. All right? It'll be between this and this. The variance will be small. All right? I'll be fine, and all the money will be at the back of the room. I can now sit in the green room, have a nice conversation with Cole and Powell, kind of be relaxed, not be tense about how this is going to go. Right? Other people don't even. Plus, I also know we're going to mail to everybody who didn't buy, and I know what the base money from that is. See, I know a lot. So I can be pretty relaxed about money. The people that don't have a pipeline, they don't have a system, they don't have a process, they don't have measurements, they're pretty uptight about it. And the more uptight about it you are, usually, the less of it you get. Right? It's sort of like, I watch people go, we had a guy, complete ass, by the way, but so an owner of racehorses, and every time he came in the barn, every horse, even if he tried to feed it a carrot, bit him. And so he hired a horse psychic. There are such things. He hired a horse psychic to come psychically talk to his horses and find out why they were all biting him. So it cost him $395 to be told they don't like you. Which I said could have saved $395 because nobody else likes you either, you know. But I watch people, and they'll come and they'll approach a horse fearfully, you know, timidly, and they either get ignored or they get bit. Those are the two things that happen, really depending on the personality of the horse. So the horse either just ignores them, and they're standing there with a carrot, and the horse just turns his ass to him and walks off into the other side of the stall, or he comes up and not only takes a carrot, but he bites their hand. Okay. Somebody that does not approach them timidly and fearfully can hold the carrot wrong, have the hand in the wrong place, do everything wrong, and the horse delicately takes the carrot out of their hand and doesn't bother them and is responsive to them. It is my theory that money operates exactly the same way. So if you are really uptight about it, it either ignores you or it bites you in the ass. Those are basically the two things that it does. If you are not uptight about it, it tends to be pretty responsive to you. But to try and make yourself non-uptight about it has a mental or metaphysical or spiritual exercise with no mechanical reasons for the confidence is a fool's mission. 27, page 177. Money finds disciplined individuals very appealing. This is why it's very hard to transfer money to poor people. This is one of the reasons war on poverty failed. So the state that, I forget what state it is now, but they've tried to, there's a big turmoil this week because they're trying to pass the law that you have to be drug tested to get your food stamps, and if you're on drugs, we're going to deny you your food stamps. Okay? And of course, so the state's passing it, whatever state this is. The feds will immediately, Holder will sue them, and the federal government will undo it. However, the test results, okay, so they run a test, okay, and 33% of the people who are getting their food stamps are on drugs. They're drug addicts. Right? So if you transfer money to these people, where do you think it goes? Yeah, it goes to drug dealers. That's where it goes. We could bypass the middleman and just set up a subsidy system for the drug dealers and at least save the administrative cost of moving the money through the food stamp people to the poor people. We could just put the drug dealer, let him have a little kiosk down at the Giant Eagle grocery store, and just give him a budget every month based on the number of poor people there are in the neighborhood, and we could save some money. I mean, we could streamline the process. Now, obviously, not everybody on food stamps. My family's been on food stamps. Not everybody on food stamps is taking drugs. In fact, their stats show it's 33%. But 33% is a significant number of everybody that we're giving money to. And so as a broader context, this is why it's very difficult to lift anybody up by giving them things. Because if they're very undisciplined in their behavior, then when you give them money, it is immediately working on escaping from them. And there's all sorts of ways it can escape. Drugs, booze, pool hall, gambling, trailer park mistresses, all combinations thereof. You know, there's a lot of escape hatches from poor people. There's actually less from rich people, ways to escape even if it wants to. But poor people got a lot of escape hatches. Right? They got old broken down cars that break down all the time. Right? That's one place. So money escapes through the broken down car to the auto repair shop owner. There it goes. Okay? Auto repair shop owner, he ain't the brightest bulb on the planet, but he's an improvement over this nitwit who has my money right now, so I'll cause the car to break down and I'll at least move up a little. Then I can escape the auto repair shop owner if I'm money, because I can go to the parts guy who really runs a good business and has a brain about money, so I can keep, if I'm money, moving up the food chain of intelligence and behavior here until I get to somebody who I want to be with, right? So this is why it doesn't work. The less disciplined somebody is, the less likely it is that they get to keep any money when it does arrive, however it gets there, whether they sell something to get it, whether they get a paycheck from labor to get it, or whether we just hand it to them. So we have a relative in our family that I don't, but another family member routinely gives money to them, right, because they're poor. This has gone on for 22 years. They are still poor. They are every bit as poor as they were 22 years ago. Every dollar has disappeared. Well, of course. Right? Let's see. No initiative, no discipline, no self-improvement, no additional education, no attempt at actually getting a good job, outdated skills. Gee, I wonder why the money's not sticking. This is amazing. Right? My brother, his investment strategy, which is not totally flawed over the last 10 years, I mean, depreciation. So his investment strategy is beer and toilet paper. Right? That's his strategy. Now, actually, both, if you stored them, have outperformed the S&P over the last decade. So it's not totally flawed, but, you know, basically 100% of his money goes down his throat and out his butt. That's where it goes. So I say his investment strategy is beer and toilet paper. Not only isn't there 1% going into a wealth account or 1% going into a giving account, there isn't 1% going anywhere but in here and out here. Now, if you did redirect, say, 10% to like learning how to do something from which you might make more money than you make now, right, you would still have beer and you would still have toilet paper. You would be okay. You wouldn't starve, all right? But this is now 20 years of a job in a dying industry that you can see, it will be gone. What are we doing about this? Nothing. Are we directing any of our? No. None. Right? And the few attempts, see, zero discipline. So, can't happen. So, you want great discipline personally, and you want great process discipline in your business. And the more people you have in your business, the more process discipline you need, because the people you got aren't very disciplined. And they don't have a lot of initiative. If they had a lot of initiative and they had discipline, they wouldn't be working for you very long. At best, they would come, they would learn, and they would move on. Right? It's very hard, for example, to keep really good copywriters as in-house staff copywriters. It's easy to keep crappy ones. Lazy, undisciplined, crappy ones stay forever. The good ones get better, and they hang up a shingle, and they go on their own. So it's very hard to keep them. Most companies can keep somebody for maybe 3 years, tops, before they move on if they're really good. And by the way, you probably shouldn't. You should just know it and be cheerful about it and see yourself as a lifter of others and be grooming the next one before you lose this one. There's no reason to really be pissed about it. You should actually kind of celebrate it, because just as we need a bunch of dullards, because somebody has to serve the coffee, we do need some people moving up in order to drive the overall economy for all of us. So most high performers create regimens for themselves in order to, and here's the most important point, to impose discipline. So, like, people will often say to me, they will credit me with great self-discipline, and they're wrong. I have like none. But I'm very good at imposing discipline so that I have to behave in a self-disciplined manner. Okay? That I'm good at. I got good at it because otherwise I might have been here this morning and I might not have been here this morning. You know, I mean, just like everybody else. Well, there was a lot of traffic. I'm sorry I overslept, right? All the shit you hear, right? Well, you would hear that from me if I didn't have a whole system for how I get up before I want to get up, and how I get myself organized, and how I get my butt out the door, and making sure that, because I drive classic old cars, making sure that there's 3 of them there. So if one don't start, I got another one. I'm not calling over here saying, somebody come get me. So I get this, right? And so money leaves undisciplined environments as fast as it can, and it leaves undisciplined people as fast as it can. Somebody said to me, we were talking about athletes, and so you have a bunch of athletes. They tend to be known, infamous, who 20, 30, 40, $50 million flow through their hands, and they're a Walmart greeter at the end of their careers. But you also have guys like John Elway, Peyton Manning, George Foreman, if you want to go to boxing. Now, he blew it all once and then figured it out and had to come back and do it differently. All right? But so it's not like it's endemic to an athlete. They don't have to wind up broke. They can actually wind up pretty rich. Elway's loaded. Loaded. Peyton is loaded. The Christian guy that can't get a quarterback job, what's his name? The short arm guy, Tebow. Yeah, I can throw a ball farther than this kid. I don't get this kid. He can catch. He just refuses to catch. He insists on throwing. He can't throw. I don't understand the thinking here. But, I mean, this kid couldn't even get the ball down the 50-yard field in the Arena Ball League, let alone the NFL League. But, geez, he can run. He can catch. There's a place for him. But even not playing, this kid has made himself wealthy. He's figured out he's worth about $50 million. All right? He's no dummy. You don't have to be dumb. It's a choice, you know. But the money leaves these people who have no discipline. We're almost ready to go to tomorrow, which is today. Money likes to be planted and grow, not come and go. So this is really about creating evergreen assets, not creating one-time or short-time income. So, Doc, you have that campaign you roll out once a year. Refresh me. Just be as loud as you can.
The tax rebate mailer or something?
Well, that's not the one I was thinking of. So you have more than one. There's one I used in a newsletter not too long ago that you pull off the shelf and use once a year. You've been using it for 6, 7, 8 years. Yeah. So how many years have you used that? 7. Okay. And the most recent year, productivity?
Like 20 or 30 to 1.
And what was it 7 years ago? 20 to 30 to 1.
Maybe a little bit more.
Okay. So now understand how contrary this is to the way both big companies and small businesses do promotions. They largely do them once. They go on the shelf. People create products. They use them once. They go on the shelf. They do marketing campaigns. They use them once. They go on the shelf. One of the biggest changes at Guthy-Renker, one of the things that made those guys rich, is the decision to stop doing hits. So that business in its early years was truly an infomercial company. People still think of them as that, but they are not. And it was about a hit show that sells a ton of stuff, and then it's done. And we need another hit show. So Personal Power, for example, no legs, no tail, no nothing. It runs as long as it can run. It sells a bunch of stuff, and then it's over. There was a continuity program attached to Personal Power, but Tony couldn't do a tape a month on time, so undisciplined. So that got the plug pulled, and that money ended. Right? And Bill said, enough of this. We need to create franchises, not hits. Right? So Proactive, I think we're in the 16th year, 17th year of now a $800 million a year business. Right? So evergreen assets. It's not that hard to do. It's just that people don't really think about it this way. Iger, 2 years ago now, had the same. They were already committed to Lone Ranger, and there was a possibility of that turning into a franchise. But if you remember the movie Disney did with Tim Allen and John Travolta, I forget what it was called, but they were aging motorcycle fans. Yeah, right. So this is what, on a conference call, Iger blew his top over. Right? He said, this is dumber than dumb. We got characters, we got toys, we got clothes, we got amusement parks, we got everything tied together, and we're over here doing one-time income events. For what? We want to do Spider-Man 56. That's what we want to do. All right? We want Spider-Man on a walker, you know. DC has done it with Batman. There's 52 different Batmans, including Bruce Wayne now in a wheelchair in the Batcave, on the computer, guiding 5 other Batmans out, running around, fighting crime. Because Bruce is now in that Batman series. He's 82 years old. He never recovered from his broken back. So Batman, you know, they ain't giving up on Batman. However many Batmans, however many years, I think this is the 75th year. I think this is his 75th birthday, Batman. Right? The Hog thing, one time, right? Think and Grow Rich on TV, one time. Proactive, forever. You got to think about what you want to invest your time and money in all aspects of your business. Am I creating, if not a lifetime asset, at least an asset with some legs to it? Or am I creating something we're going to do once, we're going to make some money? So if you, in our world, if you look at the online launch internet freak squad guys, the cabal, you know who I'm talking about. I say it affectionately. Okay? But the writing was on the wall from the very beginning. Okay? They're all doing one time, launch, sell this stuff, then throw all that in the trash and go create another one, and go create another one. And they got enough time because everybody takes a turn, right? Well, what happens when you don't have a hit? It's inevitable. Disney's pretty good at it, but, you know, Lone Ranger, right? Well, see, they can take that. It didn't even, the loss isn't even a blip in the annual report. But you and I, and those guys, the Internet Freak Squad, because they got 2 Bentleys parked in the driveway, and they got 4 they're paying alimony on, and they, you know, they are spending it. One Lone Ranger to them, and they're dead. Stupid. Why not create something that lives? In your archives collection, just as an example, this is an ad from 1997. It's one of the first times I did the exposed ad. This is actually for Joe Polish. And so it's an ad in the voice of someone, and it appears to be a negative ad until you are into it, and it is really a testimonial ad. Right? So that's from 1997. To his credit, a client of mine who's been running an ad I wrote for him 9 years ago He's been running it every month, every year, making money. It's finally starting to peter out. So to his credit, instead of inventing anything, he went there, and here's his current ad in a very current magazine. And this one will probably run for him for years and years and years. How many people don't even bother? Right? They create an ad. It's for this week's sale. And then off it goes. It's for this month's promotion, and off it goes. You want to create stuff as much as possible that has long life. A list of great evergreen assets. One, the Bible. Right? They wrote it once, and so Nelson, how many years? I'm not a theologian. Great. So for at least some of the editions, 3,000 years, still cooking, still the brochure, still putting the butts in the seats. Going to be hard to beat that one. They got a big head start. I would point out to you it's a storybook. There's not rocket science. Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse, what a great evergreen asset. Right at the moment, the Frozen Girl's more popular in terms of who wants to see him, but the merchandise sales, number one, still Mickey Mouse. All the stuff they got. They still sell more Mickey stuff than they sell anything else. And every kid knows who Mickey is, even if they've never seen it. I don't know how, again, I don't know how they know, but they all know. They all get it. You take a kid to Disney World, which I've done, who have never been permitted to see cartoons, TV, none of it. They don't know anybody else there, but they know Mickey. Oh, wow. Evergreen asset. Superman, like Batman, evergreen asset. Right? Bad movies can't kill him. Bad actors can't kill him. Nothing can kill him. Just keeps cranking along. McDonald's. The Happy Meal is 50 years old this year. The Happy Meal, what is it? Gift with purchase. In a box, that's what it is. Cracker Jack Toy Surprise, that's what it is. They didn't invent anything. They capitalized on a proven evergreen asset to create an evergreen asset. Times haven't changed it. The FDA can't kill it. Michelle can't kill it. Happy Meal. Haagen-Dazs. This is a great story because, if you've never looked it up, Haagen-Dazs ice cream was created by Reuben and Rose Mattis in Bronx, New York in 1961. It's from the Bronx. Right? He invented the Danish-sounding name as a tribute to Denmark's treatment of the Jews during the Second World War. The name, however, is not Danish. It's not anything. Mattis felt that Denmark was known for its dairy products and had a positive image in the United States. His daughter reported in a PBS documentary, an ice cream show, which means you could go see this if you wanted to, that her father sat at the kitchen table for hours saying nonsensical words until he came up with a combination he liked. All right? So Haagen-Dazs is a couple of Jews in the Bronx who came up with a name out of whole cloth in order to lie to us and deceive us and cheat us into thinking. And the thing was bought by Pillsbury in 1983 for some huge sum of money. General Mills bought Pillsbury. General still owns it, but has licensed it to Nestle. God knows how much money has come out of this thing. Kosman's Ant Farm. I won't tell the story, but a lot of money. So one of the things people are always asking me in my business, what are you doing different? What have you done differently than, a lot of these other speakers? So one is concentration on evergreen stuff as much as possible. So how many of you in here own the magnetic marketing product? How many don't? I'm fascinated. 1, 2, 3. Dave? Dave, huh? How could that even be? But I mean, that product For Nightingale, lead the field, that product, they still sell it. Of their 3 front ends to get a new customer, lead the field is still one of the 3 front ends to get a customer. This product has lived and lived and lived and lived and lived. Here's what most speakers did for years. They did a seminar, they recorded the seminar, they sold those tapes for about a year, and then they decided, geez, these are too old to sell. So they made another one, and then they made another one, and then they made another one, and they keep throwing stuff in the trash and making another one. Has no permanence, has no legs, has no foundation. How many people in my world do you know who have stuck with the same newsletter for 20 years? Not many. Not many. I hate one and dones. I hate short-term stuff. Now, you candidly see it now with me attached to it, but that doesn't mean I like it. Okay? I get the Iger deal. I get what Bill Guthrie did. Cost me some money because there's more money to get from Guthrie Renker when they're doing new hits all the time than when they're doing sequels. Okay? But he was 1,000% right. Successful sequels, long-term, evergreen assets that yield money. So one of the things to think about is how much are you creating where money gets to come and stay and continue to thrive versus how much are you creating where money comes and goes.